This one was personally flown by Hans-Joachim Marseille, and he actually shot down 17 in one day.
I don't like him. I'm sorry, I don't like him.
Well, actually, he was a very funny guy.
Oh, okay.
The visibility on this is awful.
No, it's crap. Essentially, you need an unstable airframe, so a pilot can chuck it about.
This is the number one in 1940.
He likes this plane too much.
But this is an effective plane.
Yes, it is, but we're talking about the Battle of Britain. Ah, here you go. Look at it. Look at it.
Yeah.
It's just... It's so mean.
Welcome to Walking the Ground. As we said, as we made our way in here, James, this is a very, very Spitfire-y place, but we're not here to talk about Spitfires, are we?
No, we're here to talk about the Luftwaffe's fighter planes.
That's right, because you can't do a series about the Battle of Britain without looking at what the Luftwaffe are using as their fighter aircraft. Because obviously, if we're going to talk about the Battle of Britain, we are going to talk about Spitfires and Hurricanes.
I want to focus on the Luftwaffe here.
Yeah, okay.
It's interesting because the Messerschmitt Me109, which is the model that they have in the summer of 1940, is absolutely superb.
Yeah.
The other one is the Messerschmitt Me110, which really isn't particularly good as a day fighter. Quite good as ground attack, quite good as a night fighter, but as a day fighter...
Jim, it's a Zerstörer, it's a destroyer. What's wrong with you?
Goering absolutely loves it.
Come on.
But they're kind of at the extremes, I think, which is really, really interesting. But we are very lucky today. We don't have to put up with Bouchons.
No.
You know, post-war, Spanish-built, Merlin-powered Messerschmitt 109 frames, but otherwise not a Messerschmitt 109 at all. This is the real deal, and this one is like a super special Messerschmitt. This is a Messerschmitt 109E, exactly the ones that they were been using in the Battle of Britain in the summer of 1940, but this one was personally flown at various times by Hans-Joachim Marseille, who is arguably the very greatest fighter ace of them all.
Yeah.
Because although he didn't quite get up to B.B. Hartmann's 352 planes shot down, I think it was only 172 for him, only a mere. All of his were against RAF fighter planes.
Yeah.
Not sort of, you know, obsolescent Russian bombers.
Yeah.
On the Eastern Front. And he was amazing, and he actually shot down 17 in one day.
I don't like him. I'm sorry, I don't like him.
Well, actually, he was a very funny guy.
Oh, okay.
You're a very funny guy. And he was very amusing. He was also completely mad, but a brilliant, brilliant pilot. And he flew this very plane, which has been completely, fantastically restored by Craig Charleston, who is the numero uno restorer of Messerschmitt 109s around. And both him and the monks, Peter and Leon Monk, have allowed us to come and film with this, which is really, really good of them.
I think as
has the Australian owner of this.
But what's always striking about these planes, but particularly, and for me, particularly the 109 when you get up close to it, it's not very big, it's quite a small prospect, this. In your mind's eye, somehow this plane ought to be larger, it ought to be sort of chunkier, but there is this sort of strange fragility about it when you get really up close to it. Obviously, all of these aircraft, you know, they're built to be light, they're built to be quick. But it's particularly the 109s. They feel very, very small and pocket-sized and fragile. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, but sort of mean, like a kind of hornet.
No.
I mean, it looks absolutely fit for purpose. For me, I've got to say, I think this is the number one in 1940.
Yeah.
You know, you can argue about turning circles and all the rest of it, and we'll get into all of that. But I think what we should do is have a proper look around this, explain the heritage of it, how it came into being, and then look at some of its unique features before we then turn to the Messerschmitt 110.
Yeah, okay.
But we've got such an opportunity here. This is really high privilege stuff.
I mean, it really is amazing to get this close to this damn thing.
Yes,
you know,
and to be able to show.
shake my fist at it.
Well, of course, but also to show why this is the daddy in 1940.
Yeah. Yellow nose, though, is a bit daft. See that a mile off. It's not a camouflage, is it? A yellow nose.
I love it, though. Mean. Well, this has such an interesting procurement process.
Yeah.
You know, so the
we're going to try and make procurement interesting.
Yeah,
now,
well,
aren't you?
because it is really interesting. Really interesting. So it's 1933.
Yeah.
You know, the Luftwaffe doesn't get announced till 1935. So they're planning illegally, effectively.
Well, critically, Versailles Treaty. No air force. You're not allowed an air force.
Only gliders.
So it's gliding clubs.
Not powered.
And Lufthansa.
Yeah.
So it's airlines and gliding, which are what's keeping German aviation going.
Yeah, but it's 1933. Hitler's in power. He now thinks that, what the heck, I'm going to do it anyway. So he starts, and they think about, what do they want? And
what I think what's really interesting is it's quite clearly, because the Germans haven't been allowed to do this, they don't have an air force, they've done all the thinking. Whereas the RAF in the intervening sort of kind of groping around looking for a role, trying to figure out where it fits into things. Whereas the Germans, because they've had this clean break,
they can start again.
They can start again, and they can go back to really, really thinking what they want.
And what they want is a tactical air force which is going to support ground operations, because they're a continental land-based power. They're not anticipating going across water and doing long-range bomber operations on their own. They're always going to be in support of ground operations.
And integrated.
And
this is an interceptor. That's the point of this aircraft. So what the Germans are interested in is speed, rate of climb. So the speed is it's got to fly at 250 miles an hour, which seems incredibly slow by what's to come. Yeah.
But the key thing is the rate of climb, and it's got to be able to get to 6,000 meters, which is about 19,000 feet, in 17 minutes.
Yeah.
That's the key specification.
Yeah.
And it's got to be able to have sustained flight for 90 minutes, which again is not terribly long, but is quite long by kind of 1933 standards. There's 4 companies in the race. There's an Arado one, there's a Fokker-Wulf one, there's one from Heinkel, and there's a Messerschmitt. And generally it's regarded that the Arado and the Fokker-Wulf are sort of backups.
Yep.
It's widely expected that Heinkel is going to win it, but it's going to be a shootout between Heinkel and Messerschmitt.
Well, and it's a harder sell for Messerschmitt, isn't it? Because he has a bad relationship with Milk.
Yes.
Who's calling the shots, after all. So.
And also the Heinkel one looks really, really fantastic.
Oh, it's a sexy plane.
It's got elliptical wings, it's got wide undercarriage, it's got incredible range, but range is not what they're after.
No.
At this stage. And it's really interesting, the first flight of the prototype of the Messerschmitt 109 is in May 1935, but with a Rolls-Royce Kestrel.
Yeah, because
not even a German engine.
The engine isn't ready. The German engine isn't ready. And what's interesting about that is that they swap a Kestrel for an airframe with Rolls-Royce as a German airframe. So this is what's also really interesting about this period of aviation.
Everybody knows everybody.
Everybody knows everybody. Everyone's reading each other's technical journals. Everyone's keeping abreast of each other.
Well, Beverly Shenstone, who's the designer of the Spitfire wing, has worked for Heinkel.
Yeah, he works for Heinkel.
And is it any coincidence that the Heinkel 112, which is part of this procurement, also has elliptical wings like the Spitfire?
Yeah. Well,
there you go.
A coincidence or?
Well, no, it's just really, really interesting. But it's a very linked world.
Well, it's a linked world, and these are all the different technological trees people are barking up, basically, to try and find the answer to how you make because the real big thing here is their single-wing aircraft.
Yes.
This is the break with the biplane age.
Yes.
And
stress metal as well.
Well, but what you get with that is a faster aircraft, but you don't get the manoeuvrability that a biplane has, because the biplane is a much more controllable set of air surfaces.
Yes.
So you can chuck a biplane around in a way. You can't, but what you get here is speed.
You get his speed, you get rate of climb, which is so important. They understand that. So this first flies in May 1935, the prototype. Then they swap the Kestrel for Dumo engines.
Yeah.
And that takes on a little bit further. It's the Heinkel 112, which is first ready in February 1936, and it looks absolutely the business. Everyone's expecting it to get the deal. This doesn't fly till March. By which point it's got its engine in, it's got its guns in, and in those final tests, it turns out to be 20 miles an hour faster than the Heinkel 112, which is 300 plus miles an hour, which is way faster than the 250 that was originally kind of part of the procurement. And what's really interesting, what makes the decision...
That's a Spitfire just starting up out there, by the way, if you're wondering what that fantastic noise is.
But what makes them make the decision?
Well, ironically...
is the Spitfire.
It's the Spitfire.
It is the news that the Spitfire has been signed off, has done its first flight, and they think, right, we need to make a decision. The decision is made in May 1936, and it's this.
Yeah.
And the first one is the A, then the B, then the C, then the D, the Dora, which is the first kind of sort of big production run, and the Emil, which is the one that's flying by end of 1939 into 1940, and also in France, by the way, in Spain rather.
Yeah, in the Spanish Civil War.
Spanish Civil War as well. That is the one that's fully formed coming into the Battle of Britain. And I think it's really, really interesting that this is already quite a long way down the development line, whereas the Spitfire, for example, is still the Mark I in the summer of 1940.
Well,
so this makes this the Mark V.
Yeah, well, and just the fact that this has a pitchable propeller and all that sort of stuff, which the Mark I Spitfires are on the twin blade propeller. They're just that, and it's because of the Spanish Civil War. They've been able to shake out some of the issues with the design. They've been able to find out what's right with it, what's wrong with it, and move on from there. And let's go and have a look at what's right with it, shall we?
Absolutely.
Let's have a look at some of the design features.
Yeah, because it is.
He likes this plane
really,
too
really
much. I'm finding this generally uncomfortable and unpatriotic.
Well, one of the things you notice about the Me109E compared to the Spitfire just there is just how much smaller the wings are.
Yeah.
You know, and what that means is it's got a very high wing loading.
Explain a wing loading to those who don't know.
So
the wing's got more work to do, essentially, aerodynamically, doesn't it?
This is all about drag. It's about creating more speed. So the more things you've got that are getting in the way of the airflow, the more drag you have. The more drag you have, the slower you're going to go. So that's one of the reasons for keeping the wings as small as you possibly can.
And Willy Messerschmitt's trademark way of making aircraft, it's about high performance. It's about
exactly
trying to get as little drag out of the airframe as possible, because what you're trying to do with an aircraft like this, of course, because it's not a biplane, to create an interceptor that you can dogfight with and pursue with, you essentially need an unstable airframe. So a pilot can chuck it about.
Exactly. So these small wings make it very, very manoeuvrable as well. The high wing loading basically means it's the size of the wing divided by the weight, which means you get 32 pounds per square foot of weight, basically. That's how. So what's that? 32. So like 16 kilos per square foot. Is basically how it works out. So it's got 32. The problem with that is it then stalls at a much higher speed. In the case of the 109, about 110 miles an hour.
Right.
So you can't go too slow. And one of the problems you have is if you're going in a tight turn, you're slowing down. As you would in a car going around a roundabout. You know, you've got to slow right down to go round it. So he thinks, well, okay, well, what I'll do is I'll lower the wing loading at that moment. So these just here are the forward slats. And these come forward, and you've also got the flaps here at the back, both of which increase the surface area of the wing, lowering the wing loading, making it more stable at lower speeds.
Increasing the lift on the wing, basically, by changing the shape of the...
It's an airfield.
It's an airfield, but by changing the shape of the wing and creating more lift, basically.
Yes, but what that means is that at high altitudes, you've got very good aerodynamics, very good speed, and this makes this an absolutely beautiful plane to fly. There's no getting around it. The other thing you'll notice is you've got one machine gun there, you've got another one on the side. So these 109Es, they had different orientation of the weapons. So some had 2 machine guns in the wings, or 2 machine guns and a cannon in each wing. Some had you can see the machine guns at the top there, that groove coming out of the top. This one has just 1 cannon, which is coming out of the nose.
It runs
so
through the propeller shaft.
Amazing.
Through the engine. Absolutely incredible engineering.
But because you've only got 1 machine gun in each wing, that means you've got more space for ammunition. So while the Spitfire and the Hurricane only have 300 rounds per gun, all firing at the same time, this has 1,000, which means it's got 55 seconds worth of firing time.
Which is a considerable punch to pack.
Well, it's almost 4 times more than
and with exploding cannon shells, then you can do that much more.
And this is quite a tricky plane to fly, but it's not if you're experienced. Once you know how to do it and you've got the hours in your logbook, it's absolutely fine. Which is why the way it works with the Luftwaffe is the best become very, very good, and the others tend to get sort of shot down unless they survive and become very, very good. But you know, there's no moment more dangerous than taking off in this for the first time, because it's a single engine pilot.
But that's also very Nazi survival of the fittest, social Darwinist.
Of course.
It's plugged into their mindset as well. So it sort of doubles down. The airframe is doubling down on a Nazi mindset. The challenges of the airframe.
So there's 2 things that you can do with this if you're really, really good. Because first of all, you have tracer bullets, which means that every kind of 5th bullet has got luminescence on it. So you can see see where it's going across the sky, and that helps you to aim. So what you can do with this, because you've only got 60 rounds of cannon shells, 20mm cannon shells, but these are high explosive cannon shells. And particularly when you're coming up against a magnesium alloy engine of a Spitfire, what happens is it hits that. Then there's a kind of fraction of a second delay, and then it explodes. And against magnesium alloy, that's good night, Charlie. Whereas this is the power plant that this one has, which is the DB601.
It's an inverted V12, right?
Exactly. But if a .303 Browning bullet, which is smaller than the size of my finger, little finger, hits that, it just squashes it like a pea.
Yeah.
Does absolutely no damage whatsoever. Whereas a 20mm cannon hits that, it's good night, Charlie.
You're getting unpatriotic again, Jim.
I'm not getting
like
unpatriotic. But the really skilled pilot, what he can do is he can aim with his machine guns.
Yeah.
And then just press one cannon shell.
Yeah, and light it up with a cannon. Let's kind of look at the undercarriage. One of the things I think that's really interesting about the 109 is the undercarriage, but it goes to the design thinking that Willy Messerschmitt brings to this airframe. So what he's done to get the weight of the airframe down, so you get more out of the engine, is he's put the 3 points where normally in a plane, up to this point, they'd be 3 separate things. Where do you moor your undercarriage? Where do you run the main spar of the wing? And where's the firewall to the engine?
Right.
They're normally or they have been up to this point, 3 locations in an airframe. He combines them all in the same place.
Yeah.
So there's one strong point in the aircraft dealing with those 3 points of load bearing, which of course makes the plane lighter.
Yep.
Which makes it quicker, which means it can spend weight on other things, like ammunition, as you say. But that means the undercarriage are here, on the firewall, on where the main spar comes in, which is why they're so narrow.
Yep.
And it's the narrow undercarriage that, if you're an inexperienced 109 pilot, are a big part of the problem, aren't they?
Well, yes, although ironically, the actual width of where the wheels actually touch the ground is the same as the Spitfire.
Yeah.
Because they're splayed.
Yeah.
But where they join the roof of the wings is narrower.
Yeah.
One of the big problems is you've got this huge power plant here, up in that.
So you've got to stay out of the way.
And you've got the torque and the propeller's going round one way, so everything wants to go that way because you've got the prop wash, the force from the propeller going over one wing, and you've got the lift coming up onto the other. So what that means is it wants it to go like that all the time.
And the simple torque on the airframe of the way it's turning
exactly.
is turning the plane.
Exactly. So you have to counter that, and you can do that with rudder and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
But again, it's that first leap of faith when you're a young pilot.
But it's a small rudder too. So you're not getting a lot of rudder to combat the torque.
No, it's tiny. I mean, look at that. Compared to the, compare that with the Hawker Typhoon, for example, or the Tempest, that huge beast of one, or even the later Mark Spitfires. And even that one is much larger than that.
Yeah. And that's a big problem for the pilots, is the small rudder. But that's part of his design philosophy, which is, small rudder, less drag. You're going to get a quicker and sharper airframe if you've got a smaller rudder.
And in your survival of the fittest theory that the Germans are quite into, and the notion of the expert and like the super ace, this all fits because if you're really good at it, that's not a problem at all.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's just those early stages when you're a young pilot.
Yeah, but it's really clever because he's brought those 3 points in the airframe together.
Yeah, it's genius.
And that means you can take the wings off and transport it on its undercarriage without any problem. So actually you can bring these up to a railhead much more easily. You can fix them much more easily. I mean, I think one of the interesting things with this airframe compared to, say, the Spitfire is this is modern, cutting edge modular manufacture that you then see in American airframes later in the war, whereas the Spitfire is a wooden aircraft made out of aluminium by a man who builds flying boats. It's a beautiful item.
Yeah, and incredibly complex.
Whereas this is much more functional in its design approach, which is probably why it's a bit uglier.
Yeah. We should just talk about the power plant as well, though, because the Daimler-Benz engine that it has in the cowling here, it has things that the Spitfire and the Hurricane just don't have in the other. It has the variable pitch propeller, which is electric and just does it automatically, as opposed to a two-pitch propeller. It also has fuel injection and a supercharger. So you get extra power when you need it very quickly, and it's very, very responsive. And the fuel injection means that you can dive away very, very quickly without the problems that the Spitfire and the Hurricane have, and we'll get onto that. And I will never forget talking to Tom Neal, legendary fighter ace of the Second World War, flew with 249 Squadron Hurricanes in the Battle of Britain. And he said, you don't want to be buggering around with high manoeuvre. It's not about turning circles. It's big and hill.
Yeah, it's big and hill.
You don't want to be worrying about turning circles. He said, you know, what you want to do is go like a bat out of hell, absolutely fire a massive punch when you get there, and then disappear off before anyone can chase you. He said that's what the 109 can do.
Yeah.
It's got this huge power. It can climb faster than anything else. It can dive faster than anything else, and it's got more ammunition to fire in the combat zone. Those are the three things you need, because if you can dive quicker than anything else, you don't need to be worrying about la-di-da manoeuvres and split S's and Immelmans and turning circles.
But let's talk about survivability though, because we're talking about an airframe here that has a very, very big engine and not the best lift, right? I mean, it's got devices built into it to improve its lift because of its high wing loading.
Yep.
But that cockpit, because it's like a trapdoor type mechanism, doesn't slide back like this.
No.
Is much harder to get out of.
Yes, it is.
So if you're in trouble in this aircraft, if you've been hit,
well, I think what we should do is have a look in the cockpit.
I'll get in, and then I'll try and get out.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, yes. Gosh, look at it.
You're lower. You're more sort of slunk in like a sports car.
As ever, though, with these things, when they're on the ground and they're on their tail, sat on their tail wheel, you get the feeling, what would I be looking at? Where am I looking?
There's no question about it. The visibility on this is awful.
No, it's crap. This is very, very small. And if I were to close the lid, I do feel quite confined in here. Obviously, I'm probably bigger than your average Luftwaffe fighter jock.
Yeah, but even so.
Fighter yock, I suppose. What would he be?
Fighter yacht. Yeah. I'm a Yanker yacht.
Yanker yacht.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's a very tidy cockpit.
Control column's nice, isn't it?
Control column is very, very nice.
It feels good. And
it feels good. I'm not going to play with the rudder, although obviously, as we've discussed, you're not getting much out of the rudder, are you?
No.
Because there's not
I
much
also like the low position of the seat. I think you're much further forward.
But
so that looks good for gravity.
But opening this,
yeah, it's a horror story.
Let's say the plane's kind of out of control and you're doing 300 knots in a dive. Opening that and climbing out is going to be extremely difficult, isn't it? Really challenging, unlike the Spitfire on a Hurricane.
Or even if you just have a little prang on the ground and you need to get out of it quick.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. Eric Winkle-Brown, who's the legendary test pilot, who's flown more aircraft, 485, I think it is, more than anyone else. He flew this and the Heinkel 112.
Yep.
And he said he would have absolutely chosen the Heinkel 112.
Fascinating.
He said it was just a better aircraft.
Just a better plane in every aspect.
He thought so, yeah. I mean, this had a slightly faster rate of climb, but the Heinkel 112 had all that greater range.
Yeah.
Much more stable on the ground, which is much better for younger pilots.
Well, and for tired pilots.
And tired pilots,
I mean, I think one of the things we've got to remember is the sorties that they're flying in the Battle of Britain in these. Because they've got to get across the channel, the canal crank thing. They're at the end of their range, and they're doing however many sorties they're doing a day.
Well, we'll get onto that in another episode.
I know, we will talk about that, but you just think, if you've got an airframe that is less forgiving, if you've got a plane that's less forgiving to the pilot, he can be as experienced as he likes, but if he's knackered, if he's played out, he's going to have accidents, isn't he?
Well, it's really just the visibility as well, because it's a bit like being a tank commander. You need visibility.
I can't see a thing out of here.
No, exactly. It's like working off periscopes or something.
Yeah.
Visibility is everything. Being able to see your enemy before they see you, because then you can do something about it. Yeah. You can either get on their tail or you can dive out of the way or whatever. And I remember Winkle-Brown saying that for him, it was the visibility above all that made him think, I would not have wanted to go to war in this.
I mean, what we're discovering here is different aircraft have different pros and cons, right?
Well, they absolutely do. But it still comes down to the three things that you need to do more than anything else in air-to-air combat in 1940 is climb faster, dive faster, and when you're in the combat zone, pack a bigger punch.
Yeah.
And this is what this can do better than any other aircraft in flying around anywhere in the world in the summer of 1940.
Yeah. Except
it's terrible canopy and you can't get out of it.
It's difficult to land. Taking off comes with its own challenges.
Yep.
And look over there. It's a Spitfire.
He's made it home.
Yes, that is the problem that this aircraft faces, is that one right there. So Billy Messerschmitt's a clever boy designing this, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think we got the measure of this, but what we haven't got the measure of yet is the Messerschmitt 110, the Destroyer. The Destroyer. So we're going to go and have a look at one. at the RAF Museum in Hendon.
Yeah.
Put the two together, and then we'll draw our conclusions on the Luftwaffe's fighter force in the Battle of Britain. I mean, it looks very cool, doesn't it?
It does.
But this is the Me110 in a happier place than it is in 1940.
Exactly.
It's got its Liechtenstein radar on the front.
Well, yeah, it's being used for a thing it's capable of. This is always the thing with aeroplanes, is you can slice and dice the numbers. This is really, really good as a night fighter against...
Or a ground attack fighter.
Or a ground attack plane. But this is in its night fighter role.
Yes, this is a G. So we should just be absolutely clear. This is a bit like looking at a Spitfire Mark 9 to illustrate the Battle of Britain. This is an advanced version of the 1941. But it happens to be the only one in the UK. So, we're very lucky to see it.
We'll settle for it.
We'll settle for it. But in 1940, this is the second fighter. And it's a pet project of Goering, who is, after all, from July 1940, the Reichsmarshal, the world's only 6-star general. And he likes it, so then everyone else likes it.
Well, but its strengths are...
And it's called the Zerstörer, the Destroyer.
But its strengths are, it's not slow. This isn't a slow plane.
No, it's a 300 plus mile an hour.
Yeah, exactly. It's got tremendous range. It's got very, very long legs.
Armed to the gunnels.
So one of its intended purposes is bomber escort on those long journeys across the North Sea in case you're attacking London and you haven't captured France. So again, it's one of these planes where you can see the reasoning, but up against a faster interceptor, the Spitfire or the Hurricane.
And a more manoeuvrable interceptor.
Yeah, exactly. It's got proper problems.
Yeah. The other thing is they tend to operate at slightly lower altitudes. So the sort of rule of thumb for the Luftwaffe is your Heinkel 111s and Dornier 17s, they're coming in at, let's say for argument's sake, 18,000 feet, 15,000 feet, whatever. Then you have the Messerschmitt 110s at, say, 20,000 feet. Then you have the 109s at 25,000 feet.
Top cover at, 25,000.
And the Spitfires are climbing up and trying to get to a point where they're above the 109s, but certainly above the 110s. And the amount of descriptions of Spitfires peeling off and tearing down into 110s is just incredible. And they usually can't do anything. And one of their techniques is to go into a kind of defensive circle and just sort of go round and round and round and round until they go away. But there's ways around this. You just fly in and kind of hammer it and go the opposite direction.
If you're circling the wagons, you're in trouble, right?
Yeah.
It's interesting though, because again, with so many of these German aircraft, with the Stuka, in its role, it's exactly the right plane. The minute it's out of its role, it isn't. And they aren't developing multi-role planes, or they don't discover with this until later in the war that it is a multi-role aircraft.
No. Well, they're incredibly effective in Poland, incredibly effective in Norway. They come in and wreak absolute havoc as sort of ground attack fighters. And against biplanes and stuff, not a problem at all. But as you say, over England, against Spitfires and Hurricanes, they're just outclassed. And the thing is, this is a problem with the Nazi system, where you're surrounded by sycophants and people are telling you what you want to hear. Goering really loves a Zerstörer. Everyone knows he loves a Zerstörer. So, no one's going to go, Herr Reichsmarschall, I've got bad news. So when they do the Study Blue, which is the intelligence briefing for the Adler Angriff, the attack of the Eagles, the all-out Luftwaffe's attack of Great Britain, they say, well, we think the 110 is massively superior to the Hurricane. Perhaps might be outclassed a little bit by the Spitfire. And, it's just nonsense.
I mean, this isn't to say though that on the British side, because we've talked about Spitfires and Hurricanes a lot, there isn't the odd dog. I mean, we're here at the RAF Museum at Hendon. Over there is a ferry battle.
And let's not mention the Defiant.
We're not going to talk about the Bolton Porter Defiant, which I think looks so cool. And it's one of those things that, if you were 10 and you drew a fighter plane with a turret in the back of it, you'd think, I think I've probably cracked all the problems that the fighter force might have, right? Because it's got a Merlin engine.
And backed by Dowding, after all.
And backed by Dowding. So it's not that the British system is perfect or immune to these kind of favoured types. It's just that with the battle that they're trying to fight, the shortcomings, and this is always what happens in conflict, the shortcomings of a thing can completely reveal themselves, even if the air crews are well trained and experienced, because after all, the thing the Luftwaffe bring to the Battle of Britain is they're much, much more experienced than Fighter Command.
Well, they're experienced at flying tactical
Well, but at combat,
Operations.
because they've had the Spanish Civil War under their belt, which is how they've ironed out the problems with the Me109.
Yep.
They've
worked out the finger four,
exactly,
the swarm,
and they've
stuff.
worked all these things out. Yeah. And Fighter Command is green, but what's interesting is their fighter planes, possibly for the role they're required for, fewer hiccups in the designs, and so are able to be more effective. Yeah. Hey, however, this is the interesting thing with all planes is that 1940 for this plane is a blip, but this is an incredibly effective night fighter. I mean, we can't underestimate how effective this plane is, and it's got a Schrager music, which is
30mm cannon pointing upwards.
Pointing upwards, so you come in under the Lank, or the Halifax, or the Stirling. You come in on their electronic systems because you're listening out for them, and you shoot the thing down from underneath. And there's a long period where Bomber Command, they have no clue how they're losing these planes. So they're not lost to flak. They just go down, and so it has a bad summer, bad autumn over England, but this is an effective plane.
Yes, it is, but we're talking about the Battle of Britain.
I know.
And we're talking about the Battle of Britain, and what we've concluded is that the Me109 is pretty good, and this has got a few shortcomings. But anyway.
Well, horses for courses, and this is the wrong course.
Yes.
Simple as that. Right.
Onwards.
Onwards. It's all right. He likes you, really. So, to summarise, I mean, what's interesting is what we've looked at here is one plane that is gleaming, and another that isn't really.
Well, it's not good for what they want it to do in the summer of 1940. We're judging these by 1940 Battle of Britain standards.
Yeah.
So as a ground attack fighter, the 110 is great. Later on in the war as a night fighter, it's fantastic. It is the night fighter.
But this, in terms of single engine, single seater, super nippy, packing a punch, rate of climb.
I'll say it again. Can climb faster than anything else, can dive faster than anything else, can pack a bigger punch than any other single engine fighter. So that's all good, but it's not just about what it can do on paper.
Well,
it's what it can do in practice. And if your commander-in-chief is not the sharpest when it comes to tactics and strategy and even operations, you've got a problem on your hands. And on the 19th of August, so just 6 days after Adlertag, Eagle Day, the main kind of assault on the RAF is launched by the Luftwaffe. He calls around his pilots and goes, "This isn't good enough, you're not doing it right. What I really want you to do from now on is close escort the bombers." Well, bombers are operating at kind of, 200 plus miles an hour, and these things are just bursting to do 350 plus.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. These are not designed as escort fighters, they're designed as interceptors. These need to be operating at high speed.
Yeah.
On their own terms.
Yeah.
And if you're not allowing them to do that, you've got a problem on your hands.
Yeah.
But on paper.
Oh, on paper, and this is the problem with top trumps, isn't it? Is that, on the top trumps card, it should have dog shit commander-in-chief.
One. Out of 10.
Yeah. Goering, 0, Dowding,
9.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's very cool to be able to. I mean, here we are leaning on the wingtip.
Oh, so casually.
Of a 109 and an Emil, and it's a very, very cool thing to.
It was flown by Hans-Joachim Marseille. I mean, let's not get away from that. This is one of the most historic aircraft from the Second World War flying today. Well, almost flying today.
Yeah.
It will be flying again soon.
Thanks for watching Walking the Ground. The Battle of Britain rages on in further episodes.
Join us in episode 4 when we turn our attention to the British fighters.
Yes.
The Spitfire and Hurricane.
We have stirrings of patriotic love for those wonderful aircraft that, of course, did brilliantly throughout the Battle of Britain without any flaws. Isn't that right, Jim?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, watch the episode anyway. Please do like and subscribe. Thanks for watching Walking the Ground. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Cheerio.